Blots, well, they were deemed to be just a waste of ink, really, as far as he was concerned. He was not impressed by that. And the free school milk we used to have, remember that? Big jug. We pour one into the other, back and forth, to mix the cream in, so that everybody had a fair share of it. And then after this ritual, we'd all be watching him over there doing it. And then finally we tipped out for us all to have the milk. Later on we went a bit posh and had milk bottles, but in those early days it was the old jug. And it was marvellous because it was straight from the cow into the jug, down to the school. Couldn't be better. What was school dinners in Aberystwyth? Well, they were quite an occasion, I think, because there'd be an inquisition if you hadn't cleared your plate. Pam too many patawna. The chewy piece of old mutton, you know, full of fat, gristle. It had to be eaten. No mamby-pamby stuff in those days. The classic one was, when I was in the trenches, we would tie a piece of string to that gristle and chew it, but we wouldn't swallow it to make it last. We even ate flies. And everybody had cabbage in those days, and butter beans, remember? When we were short of veg, these dreadful butter beans, broad beans I suppose, but we had to have those at times. Well, you like them or not, of course, you just have to have them. Now, Mr. Phillips had a very effective way of education. It was called fear. Serious misdemeanors were sorted out with due ceremony in front of the class or the school with his trusty stick. It was hand out and then wallop. You could have more than one, and God help you if you put your hand away, even though it was only nerves. He'd get you. Now, Mr. Phillips is a very kind man, because he never came you on your writing hand. So if you were right-handed, left-handed, and so on. Tables were taught parrot fashion, and very often as homework, up to the 13 times table. You were tested before the class in front of his table there. And with the aid of a full-blown slap across the ear, this would help any of your temporary memory loss. You did learn them quickly and you didn't forget them. So there was some good in that. And the same applied, of course, for spellings. He was good at that too. For lesser matters, of course, he liked to encourage you by rapping your head with his knuckles. To develop your powers of concentration. He was quite tired in the summer and in the afternoons. Now we used to have school dinners on long tables down the far end. The kindly Mr. Phillips, when you were getting on with whatever you had to do, would sit by the side of the table with his penknife in his hand. His objective was, quite simply, to sneak up on flies that were walking on the table. And if he was dead, crafty and quick, he did. And he cut it in half. He was a nice one. Now, despite all this and the privations of rationing, the end result was that our little school had a remarkable record in the 11th plus exam. And a significant number of us went on to higher education and all that, which was marvellous because we had a good foundation laid down by an old-style education. And I think he even used to try, if he had the time, to do a bit of algebra and stuff with us, ready for when he went up to the other school. Marvellous for a little country school. Now, at 11 years of age, we could go on to secondary education. And Llanrhystud was very fortunate because you had 3 schools to choose from. You could go to Aberystwyth County School, which was a bilateral school. If you passed your 11 plus, you could go to Aberystwyth Grammar School in Aberystwyth. And if you didn't pass, you went to Dinas Secondary Modern School. Now the reason for this big choice was marvellously clever. It was down to logistics, because people from Llanrhystud, there was no problem. They went to Aberystwyth. Pupils from Llanrhystud caught the service bus to Aberystwyth School, no problem. The only problem was that you couldn't turn a school bus round in Ardrange, which was the cut-off point. So you had to come down to the village to turn round. And so we were given the chance to go to Aberystwyth because the bus was coming here anyway. And I chose to go to Aberystwyth, to Ardrange. 2 reasons. One, we could go swimming. And we had lessons in an actual heated pool at the university, behind the library. And with my love of swimming, that was a very important thing. Secondly, I had a bossy older sister who would tell tales if I did something wrong. You know that. And I was speaking recently to the revered Arwen Haynes Davis, you know the guy, presenter and all the rest of it, who always looked something of an academic. He also went to Aberystwyth a couple of years after me, and he said it was a public school without the fees. And it was very much in the old style Aberystwyth. But what interested me for this academic type was he hated every minute of it. And there he is today doing quite well. And don't forget, we went to a school of about 750 pupils again. And that was a heck of a long way from 47. There we are, there's plenty here. There I am. Don't be shy, man. I haven't mentioned your name once. As in all communities, the church and the chapel, they were a choice. We as a family went to church, except for my father, who was rarely home, being a sea captain, and he had a leaning, if anything, to be a Baptist. And he did go occasionally. Now the first vicar I remember was the Reverend John Hughes, Jack Bach. Well, you've got the same words as me. Jack Bach was very small, but had a very good track record apparently, because he'd served as a chaplain during the war and also a chaplain in a prison. He also had a very strong singing voice. And with the help of Mr. Phillips, they'd get the singing going marvellously. The Coddle Canny in the front pew, because he was headmaster of a church school, expected to be down there. And he would sing, and Jack Bach used to go very red because of the strength of the singing and the power of his voice. And of course, we didn't do so badly, because in those days, and we're going back in the 50s now, we had this slow down. Remember that? The singing school. Down in the Sunday school. We had these big lino rolls. So far, la, ti, do, and all the rest of it. And the pointer, Mr. Phillips in charge usually. And we used to sing and sing there, and didn't know what the heck the words were. It didn't matter, because whatever he pointed to, you did. And of course, it didn't work for me very much. But then we didn't have television in those days, and it was somewhere to go, really. I don't know, perhaps if they'd written a hymn using so, la, ti, and all the rest of it, instead of the full words, it might be better. Sunday school trip. Sunday school trip. In the church side, anyway. It was an annual event. and after big deliberations during Sunday school, formal proposals and votes, we would end up in Barry Island, Porthcawl, Trill, or as kids if we were dead and lucky, Shrewsbury. Didn't we have a trip